Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. As promised, here is finally a Speedpaint, a piece of art and not just a studio vlog. Now this piece was actually meant to be another experiment using just my Schmincke Horadam set that I had bought for myself a few months back, but that did not end up being the case. As you can see here, I'm actually using gouache on top of my underpainting that I did here. Now the underpainting I did because I love the effect of having the underpainting, but it usually doesn't always come out right for me, and this was one of those situations where it didn't come out bad. I do like the painting, I will say that, but you can see my cat bouquet always there. But the underpainting in this one came across a little bit too strong because I put 2 layers on accident. I only meant to do one super light wash, and that did not happen. But I didn't want to start all over again, so I just ran with it and decided I'll see how it looks. But the problem was, of course, the building that I had in my head here, Mama's Goods, had white walls, and of course white watercolor does not work. It is basically the most useless paint you can think of, except to maybe lighten other colors. In this case, to actually make an opaque white, I needed to use my gouache, my Reeves gouache, which I love. And it actually took quite a few layers, which I had to do off camera. You only saw me doing a few here, but it took a lot more to actually get it to the opaque level that I wanted it. But in the end, it turned out perfect. It was just the right shade where it wasn't overwhelmingly white and basically an eyesore, so I was very happy with this outcome. Now, I have a love-hate here with my Schmincke Horadam set, as you'll see as I keep going. And a lot of the problems came with the fact that I didn't have colors that were bright enough, like my White Nights palette. They tend to pop, whereas Schmincke's colors are more earth-toned and toned down. So I had to rely on a lot of specific colors from my White Nights palette, which you see me every now and again popping out a different palette, which is the White Nights, which a few seconds ago you saw me using the Payne's Gray for the slats on the floor there. And I would also rely on it for other colors, like with the little girl's clothing, which you will see towards the end, and things like that. So when I wanted a really bright color, Schmincke just wasn't pulling it for me, and that could also partially be because of the fact that I was silly enough to do such a dark underpainting. It should have been lighter. But the reason I did an underpainting to begin with was because I wanted to get that dusky fall feeling into this piece. And it did do that, but it was also a little bit too extreme. And that was kind of a bummer, but still managed to make it work. So I did this piece kind of large, and I was using Artica's watercolor paper because I really wanted to give the Schmincke a chance to shine. And Artica's is, of course, some of the best watercolor paper you can get. This was hot pressed, and it was 300 GSM. So it was basically the perfect texture for me to paint with because I love hot pressed, not cold pressed. Too much texture for me is a problem. Especially when I'm trying to do children's illustrations, it just doesn't come across as well when there's too much texture, especially when you try to scan the piece later. Now, I'm super happy with how Artica's performed under all the different media that I used. Like I said, I used gouache and 2 different kinds of watercolors, and it held up really well. It didn't buckle very much. A little bit, but not too much. The only downfall I had with this piece was that I used a 9 by 12 inch piece of paper, and my scanner can only take up to an A4 size, which is smaller. So I wasn't able to scan this after I was done, which was a big bummer because I basically wanted to upload it to my portfolio right away, and I couldn't do that. But that's pretty much the only downfall that I had with this paper. It performed beautifully. I have to say it is extremely absorbent, most likely because of the fact that it's 100% cotton. So that might have been the reason why the Schmincke felt so toned down as well, because the paper was just absorbing it. Whereas with my White Nights, for some reason, because it is so highly saturated, it just popped off the page. And that's why I basically had to break away from my original plan to just use my Schmincke, and I had to basically try and rescue the piece because I love the drawing, I love the concept. It took me more than an hour to draw this piece because there were so many elements I wanted to combine in this piece to make this little like shop display with the pumpkins and other veggies and things, and the little girl walking past with her radio flyer wagon. So the drawing itself already took an ice age, and I didn't want to give up on the piece, so I pushed through. Another unusual thing about this piece for me was because of the size of the paper, 9 by 12 is larger than basically the largest piece I normally work with, which is an A4. It took me so long to paint this. It took me a total of maybe 7 or 8 hours over 2 days, because I just was taking my time with it, trying to plan, because there was so much detail that I had to figure out color schemes and everything from cobbled together pictures from inspiration from Pinterest. So as you can imagine, lighting was a nightmare to figure out, and how to make the colors not clash with one another. So it took me really long, which is, I guess, maybe 3 times longer than I would normally take on a painting, which for me was ouch. But still, it was a great experience. The only frustration came with the fact that usually one of the cameras was running out of battery or memory. So I always had to come and offload the videos and either charge a battery or just take all the videos off of the memory card to make room. So that in itself took time, but I would try to use those breaks to take a break, have some tea, have some lunch, dinner, whatever the case was, and then just keep painting after that, which helped to come back with fresh eyes to see mistakes and things that I missed. Another quick gripe that came to mind with this is with the pumpkins, as you can see here. They were the first part with the Schmincke that got really washed out. Now, another gripe that I had with myself, which I should have not done, was to put that blue shadow undertone there. Because I thought that, you know, in the past it had worked really well on some of my pieces, but that was on pure white paper, not with a wash already underneath. So then some parts of this just became really muddy, which I thought was a bit of a bummer because I love pure and bright. But at the end, I have to say, I really do like this toned down mellow look to the whole piece. It definitely feels more like fall and not the bright sunshiny colors of spring or summer. So what I thought at first was a big bummer actually turned out to be really helpful in the end, I have to say. And so I have to basically redact what I said about Schmincke before, that it wasn't impressive. It is. It's just what you're after that you have to be aware of. Schmincke, you can get super bright colors that are super saturated, but in my opinion at least, they are far more toned down than something like White Nights. So if you're looking for toned down colors, this is maybe it for you. But if you like super bright, then I would recommend the White Nights. And they are both artist grade, so you know you're gonna get your money's worth, but Schmincke is way more expensive, so keep that in mind. We are now coming towards the end of this piece, and I was starting to lose steam a bit, even though the end is usually my favorite part where I get to put in those final last details. At the end, when all the colors were down and everything was put together, I eventually went in with my Posca pens to do the final highlights, and that final pop of color of the white highlights just did it, and then I was in love with the piece. Now, is it my favorite piece ever? No, but these things tend to grow on me, so most likely in a few months or in a few years, this will be one of my favorite pieces I've ever done. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I will hope to see you back here on my channel for some other videos. Alright you guys, I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I will see you later. Bye!